Okay, guys, so without further ado, we're going to bring on our next guest of the evening, Mr. Dylan Elise. How are you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing great. How are you, April?
Oh, great, man. It's so good to see you. We were chatting a little bit offline just now and talking about how the last time we really saw each other was 2019 Drumathon.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it
crazy.
seems like so much longer than 4 years ago.
I know, right?
5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. The big thing I remember about you is we have someone on our board who's from Boston and they're just huge into Boston. And you
Yeah.
were wearing a Boston ball cap and they just would not stop talking about it. They're like, Dylan's wearing a Boston ball cap. She was all excited. I bet she's excited to this day about that. It's so funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, I used to live out there. That's where I first landed
That's so
to the
crazy.
States. Yeah,
How long ago was that? Because you came from New Zealand, right?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I first came out here um, with the band in 2013 before, and then again in 2014, and then they moved me here in 2015. So I moved to Boston in 2015 and spent 2 winters there, and that was enough for me. Along with something happening out in Boston, which then gave me the little push to move back, like move to LA, which is where I kind of always wanted to land. Um, yeah,
And,
so it
and
was
that,
good.
that's crazy. Yeah, there was some crazy stuff going on back then. I just watched a show about that recently, in fact. So LA, you moved to LA, and what did you
Hmm.
do when you got there? What was the first thing you did?
I have a friend in the band. He's one of my best friends. He's the bass player. Typically, that is how it goes, right? For drummers, we obviously gravitate towards bass players musically and on stage, and then it kind of tends to happen off stage as well. I feel at least a lot of my best friends are all bass players. Um, so he was the only person that I knew when I lived out here, or when I moved to LA rather, and he introduced me to a bunch of people that he knew, especially like the kind of the older school jazz scene, the people at the Baked Potato, and that kind of scene, Blue Whale, and yeah, just introduced me to a lot of those people, and then I kind of had to grind and hustle and network, do the rest of the meeting of the people in the industry myself. So I just went to all the jam nights that I could and tried to get on and sit in. Not knowing anybody is definitely tough in a town, in a city like LA, because people have their friends and everything. But I stayed persistent and without being annoying, of course. And then eventually, like right around the 2 year mark of kind of doing that networking, going to gigs and jam nights, my phone started ringing, and I don't go to any because I'm kind of playing every other night.
That's so
I think
awesome.
7 gigs last week.
Yeah,
So
it just sort of like cracked open at one point, huh?
yeah, you kind of got to hit that past that critical mass of like enough people knowing kind of who you are, and then someone just to take that chance to be like, yeah, I'm going to hire him for something. And then once that happens, the snowball effect kind of takes over. And then people hear you play with someone that they like, and they're like, oh, you know what? This music sounds good. This gig sounds good. I'm going to hire that drummer too. And then that's kind of how it happened.
That's really cool.
It's
And
been
the
great. Yeah.
the one thing that you talk and it's there's a lot of you guys that have that in common is that you don't mess around, you hustle, you network, you make yourself a package that is something that people are interested in. It's not only your playing, it's your personality, it's the whole package. It all plays into
Big
it.
time.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if you like, especially somewhere like LA, everybody can play to a pretty high level. There's so many good drummers, but that's when, like you said, the other parts, the other aspects come into play where you got to make sure that you turn up and you learn the music, that you've learned the music prior to the rehearsal. Rehearsal is not for learning the music. It's for everyone to create the music together. So you got to have those parts learned for whatever songs, whether it's covers or some straight ahead or whatever, or it's original stuff. You got to make sure that you turn up knowing the material, turn up on time, turn up with gear that is not broken and is not going to make sounds. The amount of guitarists that I play with in
right,
town,
yeah,
and their amps are like, oh man, something's wrong with my amp. I'm like, bro, this has been like this for 3 months.
right,
You got to
right.
get that thing fixed because it's making you look bad, which then makes us look bad on stage, and then the artist isn't happy. So uh, Yeah, and then the hang is a big part of it too, you know, because you can kind of turn up and do all the other things, but then if you just take off right after the gig, there's no like camaraderie, you know, within the band, and that's a big part out here because again, everyone is super replaceable because everybody can play. Everyone can play most of the gigs in town, you know, can play what's required, but it's the other parts that help you keep those gigs and generate more gigs. So,
Yeah, developing like a chemistry is so
mhm.
important amongst your bandmates for sure.
Oh yeah.
For
Hmm.
sure. So how did the Blood, Sweat and Tears gig come into the picture?
So in 2013, I got a random email from Bobby Colomby, who started Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He was one of the founding members back in '67, and he, I mean, he was kind of a little offended because when he wrote to me, I didn't know who he was, and two, who Blood, Sweat, and Tears was,
Uh
and
oh, not a good start.
so I just kind of, I think I either didn't reply because the email was very nonchalant. It was like, "Hey, I'm Bobby Colomby. Um, I want you to come and sit in with my band." That's kind of the extent of what the email was. So I guess he assumed I should know, being a drummer, you know, I should know who he is and which band he was part of and the Grammys and everything that they won back in the day. So he kind of assumed that, you know, all that. So I think I just like left the email um, because I'm like, oh yeah, man, wherever you're from, I'm gonna come and sit in with your band, you know, like that's what I'm gonna do. So, so of course I just left it, and then the manager of the band, maybe like a few days later, because I didn't respond to Bobby, he emails me and says, "Hey, I represent, you know, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Here's the music. Here's the Grammys. Here's the Woodstock. You know, all this footage and everything that was definitely much more of like an electronic press kit that impressed me. And I was like, oh wow, this is really cool, you know." And he said, "Yeah, we want to have you come out and sit in with the band. I think my colleague Bobby wrote to you a few days ago, but didn't hear back. So I find that email and I'm like, hey buddy, you know, oh sorry about the late reply. Yeah, this this sounds like a great opportunity." And then again, later on, years later, I find out from him that he was annoyed that I called him Buddy because because he knew Buddy Rich personally.
Oh wow, got you. Yeah.
It was like a whole, you know, this whole.
Right.
I was just, you know, some 23-year-old kid from New Zealand playing mostly reggae music at the time
Uh-huh.
because there's so much reggae in New Zealand. It's still island kind of uh, feel, you know. Still, we're all islanders, you know, out there. So we play a lot of reggae music. Um, but they had me come out and just meet Bobby the first time, and I was actually the first time I'd been to the States was end of I was like around the middle of 2013 with a reggae band playing in Hawaii. And at the end of that tour, it was like a 2 week run. They flew me to LA to meet Bobby, and I was in LA for maybe 20 hours. And then they flew me straight back to New Zealand, just so he could get a feel of me, you know. And I remember being pretty hungover actually on the flight because it was the end of the tour, you know. So I turn up and I meet Bobby, and I'm a little I'm a little hungover as a
Oh my
23-year-old.
god.
But he's like, "All right, man, cool. Like, great to meet you." He
Uh,
introduced me to some people. Got to meet it. Like, went to lunch and some cool places that I kind of frequent now that I live here. Um, they sent me back to New Zealand, and then 2 months later, I came out and played with the band, just one song. And they put a solo, composed like a solo in the middle of it, or a section for me to take an open solo, and that happened 4 times. We did, sorry, 4 shows within that first trip, where the drummer played half the show, which is he's a fantastic drummer, Joel Rosenblatt, who subs actually when I can't make the gig anymore, um, if I have something else going on. So he would play half the show. I would get up and do one song, play the solo, jump off, and he would finish the show. So we did that 4 times on that one trip. They flew me back to New Zealand. Then 2014, early 2014, they flew me back out. But while I was in the air, um, I guess Joel had slipped a disc or something. He had something wrong with his back, so he had to go straight to like surgery. So I land and I get all these emails saying like with charts and all like MP3s of all the songs, and I'm obviously a little confused. So I get a phone call and they're like, "Hey man, look, we Joel's out, so we called Weckl, but he's out with Chick Corea. We called Vinny, but he's out with Herbie. So you got to do the
Wow.
show. Yeah.
Man, to
Like,
to be like in the mix of those guys, God, does that
I
feel
mean,
crazy or what?
it is crazy. You know, I'm not in that realm, not yet at least. You know, I'm working on it, but
Well,
it
I
is
think
pretty
many
wild
would
that I was like
would
the
beg to
kind of
differ. Come
shows.
on. You
One
slay.
thing that is kind of funny too
Oh,
is Chad Wackerman has subbed for me on this gig, on the Blood, Sweat, and Tears gig. I had some visa stuff and I got stuck in New Zealand in, I think, 2018 or something. I got stuck there and my visa just wasn't getting, like, I couldn't get it stamped, you know, so I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. So Chad Wackerman subbed for me and he, played with Zappa and freaking a
that's
million other
crazy.
people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nuts, right? Wow. That is absolutely
But
crazy.
yeah, and then because I managed to play those shows, it was four more shows because I was able to play those without any mistakes and learn the music. Like I landed on the Thursday night, from memory, landed Thursday night, and the first show was Saturday night. So I had a day to kind of learn the music. Like I knew the one song that they'd asked me to learn from the previous trip, and I'd heard the other stuff, of course, but I hadn't learned it. You know, and there's a lot of horn. It's all horn arrangements, and the drummer has to set up the tempo, set up the different sections, and everything. So um, I had to cram. You know, I had to cram the other 15 or 16 tunes, and because I was able to play the show without any mistakes or any major mistakes, Bobby gave me the gig after the
Wow.
first show.
Wow.
Uh,
That's crazy. That's a
yeah, it's
testament to your playing though,
pretty
you
wild.
know?
I was like, it was lucky that I could read just enough. I can read a lot better now because obviously, like any muscle, if you don't, or any activity or talent or skill or whatever, if you don't use it, you lose it, you know. So playing reggae music all the time in New Zealand, I don't have to read music for that. So I'm lucky that my reading was just good enough to be able to check out the charts, make any corrections because the charts were all from, I don't know, 15 years prior and arrangements had changed and everything. So yeah, it was definitely a, sink or swim type situation, and I'm glad I managed to swim. And I can't actually swim in real life, but I
Is
managed to
that
swim.
true?
Yeah,
Wow. We're gonna have to
I
have
think I
us
can tread, but I just don't really go on the water too much. I don't know.
really, really. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it's okay.
I like being
Just
indoors.
wear your life jacket everywhere. Be
Yeah,
safe for sure. So,
exactly.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears goes back such a long way. You know, I know that none of the original players are there, right? And so, do they just kind of they still are involved though, as you said about Bobby, right? So,
Yeah, so Bobby still hires and fires everybody. He has the say in anyone who comes in and out of the band. And since, I mean, I think there's been around 200 members
wow.
um, throughout the band's duration. And I mean, Jarko was a member for a very short time, like I think around 6 months or something. Jarko Pastores was in the band. Mike Stern was in the band. I think Joe Henderson. So like some heavy jazz cats came through this band but weren't founding members. You know, Randy Brecker, brother of Michael Brecker. Randy was an original trumpet player in the band. Um, David Clayton Thomas, who kind of really helped the band take off, was the second singer. He wasn't the first singer. Al Cooper was the first singer. So like the band from the first album to the second album had, I think, like 70% of the members had changed. Um, so the band has kind of always evolved, and they've always tried to find. Bobby has always tried to find, as he owns the rights to the name. He he's always just tried to find great players to as a vehicle to drive the music through to people,
Yeah, just
and it's
like
kind of,
carry on that legacy, right?
yeah. But we have had Jim Fielder, the original bass player. He has come out a bunch of times, but he's definitely a little older, so he'll play like maybe two or three songs, and it's great to play with the guy who's on the original records. But yeah, it's just motor skills and everything. It's yeah, it's a little tough for him. And Bobby hasn't played in the band since '74. So he
Wow.
started the band and was in it for 7 years in the glory days, and then
Right.
was like, I'm not really into it. Like he just stopped drumming. and he took
Whoa.
more the A&R side of it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, and then went on to produce Charco's album, went on to work with Michael Jackson and a whole lot of amazing things, you know. So, and then find musicians to play
Yeah,
in
like
the band,
yeah.
you know.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, but there's
Yeah.
still, in something like that, I think there's still just a like a deep love and passion for music and the music industry to remain a part of that. And I think it's really cool that he keeps that legacy of Blood, Sweat and Tears rolling. Like, like you said, it's like none of the same original members, but it's
Mhm.
still got that vibe and
Yeah.
carrying on
I
the
mean, a
tunes.
lot of the players that we have in the band have been like in and out, slash out of the band for like the last 30 years. Like the sound guy has been there for 30, like I think almost 40 years, coming up on 40 years. So a lot of the people in the band have played with or worked with the original guys, but just are no longer, you know. So essentially have had the helm on their instrument longer than the original players have, but they're just not the original guys on the recordings, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so which is yeah, great. I mean, I hear all the stories, and sometimes I hear new stories, which you know I wonder who's making stuff up or if they're just unlocked memories. Because I've
Right?
been playing with the band for 10 years, hanging with these dudes for 10 years, and I'm like, that's a story I haven't heard before. So I'm like, are you making
That's
something up?
well, and plus it's like with like 200, members. I mean, like I've
Oh
got
yeah,
Wikipedia up right now and I'm like flipping through it. I was looking at it earlier and I mean, under the members section, yeah, it just goes on, scrolls on forever.
right.
I mean, one of the things I was going to tell you, I don't think we had a chance to talk about this when you were here. Bill Tillman was in the band for only
Mm,
3 years.
right.
I never really looked to see how long he was in the band. He was a sax player.
Hmm.
Um, are you even familiar with him? I mean, he's one of 200, so probably not.
I'm familiar with the name for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, he had a son named Wayne, and Wayne and I were in a band together in the late
Oh
80s.
wow.
Yeah, so I knew Bill Tillman as the guy who sits around in his underwear in the house when you come through.
Oh,
That's
that's
the guy I
amazing.
knew. But yeah, he passed away a few years back, and it's just like
Right, I did hear that.
he's from the Dallas area, so
Mm,
that might have been one of the first times I heard of Blood, Sweat, and Tears or realized really, oh, that's that band that does that song,
right.
that kind of thing. And thought that was just really, really cool. So how often are you guys playing right now?
You know, it used to be a lot more. With a band that is 57 years old, you know, the fans are 50, 60, 70 years old also. We do have younger fans, especially in Europe, which is it's kind of interesting actually. Like the fans start around 30 years old. Um,
That
they're
is
like much
interesting.
younger.
Yeah.
I, and I think it's because it's a horn band, like a lot of people play these songs in like high school or they play these songs in like your jazz school and that kind of thing. So they're super familiar with the music, which is like really odd and very different to the American crowds because American crowds are easily 20 years older. That's where they start, you know. But we used to play around about between 60 and kind of 90 shows a year. Now, I think this year's like 25 or something, you know, so it's a lot less. And I've just been on the road with with two different bands. I was on the road for 2.5 months, split between two different artists, which the tours backed up to each other beautifully. So I was very, you know, fortunate for me. So I missed 5 shows actually in May with Blood, Sweat, and Tears because I was out on a on a tour bus with somebody else, you know. But yeah, so it's definitely a lot less shows, but we're playing. I fly out tomorrow to Syracuse, upstate New York, and we play there Thursday,
Wow.
actually, with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So I'm looking forward to seeing the guys. You know, I haven't played with the band since March,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
look forward to it. You know,
That's a hot minute.
it is. I'm gonna have to see if I remember this stuff. Yeah,
Get the charts back out again, man.
but I've been playing. I mean, I've been playing. I've done probably 450, close to 500 shows with BS&T. So it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard work, isn't it? You know.
it's like yeah, you kind of like one of the bands I play with. I'll be like zoning out. And I'll be like, I need to remember to get this at the grocery store and
Yeah.
this. It's just like you played like hundreds of shows with them, and then you're like, oh, here I am. I'm back. Okay. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
like total muscle memory, and it's just like so comfortable. I love that.
it is.
That's fun.
I
So
mean, it's such a great book. You know, it's really like a really great catalog, and the show is great. The music is great, and the musicians are amazing. So it's definitely it's rewarding. You know, playing with this band. There's nine of us on stage, four rhythm, four horns, and a vocalist. Um, and it is really everyone's a badass. So it is really rewarding to play with them. And like in town here in LA, like I play a lot of R&B and pop and kind of like quote unquote jazz, which ends up just being really soul, you know, like neo soul, like 90s music, but they call it jazz out here. It is really strange. But so it is. So when I get to play some straight ahead, and I get to play, there's a little bit of Latin, you know, definitely a bunch of blues within the like BS&T catalog. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really nice.
it's awesome. It's funny. We started out talking about you getting here from New Zealand
Hmm.
and going to Boston then to LA. And normally when I have somebody on, I'm like, okay, well, what got you into drumming? And so I want to make sure we go back to that. So you're a kid. How old were you when you were first like, okay, drumming looks like a cool thing to do?
You know what? It wasn't. This wasn't my choice actually. This was something
I was forced into this,
I was
gun to
forced to
my
do.
head.
But it's my sister. My sister plays bass for a living back in New Zealand, and plays. She tours with some of the biggest artists back in New Zealand. So, but both of us, yeah, were you know coerced into playing music, and but now we both do it for a living, and you know solely we don't do anything else. So it I guess it worked out.
No doubt it did. Wow. So when did you like start? How old were you when that all happened?
6 years old. Six
Wow.
was when I started. That I remember starting to learn how to play, and then from seven is when I first remember getting drum lessons and learning how to read music, or notation at least. So drum notation, obviously, as you know, uh, what we get taught by a drum teacher versus trying to decipher what an actual chart looks like, it is really different because we don't count. We don't have pause. You know, we don't have sustain. Therefore, we don't have rests really. So everything we play is like staccato unless we're doing a swell or a buzz roll or something like that, which is not really written into drum notation. So that when you go to read a musical chart, like a piano chart, or I prefer if it's a horn band, like give me the lead trumpet or the lead tenor part, and that's what I want to read because I see the melody, I see the stabs, and work out what I need to play, what I need to accentuate or set up. But I started to learn how to read drum notation when I was seven. So yeah, it was pretty early,
That's
and definitely
crazy.
helped set me up for
Yeah.
and the BS&T gig. It really did help.
Right. And so when you're 7 and you're introduced to this, are you taking like, did you start taking band in school? Did you guys have band in school over there?
Uh, not really super young, but I was also we were homeschooled for the most part. Um, so we got got playing with each other for sure. Like I mean, she started with guitar, um, but then transitioned to bass, and that was her calling for sure. She's a fantastic bass player. So we definitely played at home and tried to learn how to create a pocket, which for her came a lot easier. Whereas I was more the technical drummer. I could do all the rudiments on my feet, as well as my hands. So I definitely went that route of being as technically savvy as I could. But yeah, then it was later on that I developed a pocket when I joined an R&B soul band, like a jam night band, where you're just playing the same groove and people get up and sing, and other singers want to get up and sing the same song. So you just learn how to make that same 8 bar cycle, like 8 bar drum loop, sound and feel really good because you're stuck there. You can't play anything else. Um, but yeah, so it was super young for us. And yeah, just from there, playing mostly solo,
Uh-huh.
and then Then I started busking on the street, and that's where a lot of, I guess, that's where a lot of opportunities came for me. It was great practice, but then people would film those, and then they would put them on YouTube. And at the time, YouTube was new, so I guess everyone was seeing, more of the videos because
Yeah.
there was less content.
How
So some
old
of
were
those
you when you
videos
started
made me
doing
laugh.
this?
I was around 16, 17, and then I think I might have been a little younger. I think I was doing them during the day around 14, like on a Saturday afternoon, like
Wow.
down in this area called Manners Mall in Wellington, and it was just like kind of like a small Times Square type vibe, right? And but then around videos from when I was around 19, 20, that's when I started playing at nighttime, and uh, those videos went a little viral, and that's how Bobby saw videos of me on YouTube and then wrote to me. I did clinic tours through Malaysia and Indonesia because of those videos, and um, yeah, so it's
Man, the power of social media is just
I know,
intense,
and
man.
I didn't actually post or own like most of the videos online. I don't own them or and I didn't post them. Um,
Like just some random people
just
saw you and
random,
posted them and then they tracked you
yeah,
down.
yeah. There was one guy that wrote the title of the video was "World's Best Drummer" or "Best Drummer in the World?" question mark. So of course that's going to get clicks. It's like clickbait. So you're going to get people to look at that and be like, "Oh wow, like yeah, he is," or "No, he isn't," or whatever. People, you know. But I was just this young kid spinning sticks and mostly had my shirt off when I had the body to do that back then.
Easy.
And yeah, they certainly did the rounds, and it helped me. And then he would pay me. I don't know how much he was making, but he would pay me, a certain amount per month from the videos because of the views and everything. So
Really? That's so cool that I
yeah,
mean that he cared enough to even do that. He could have just been like, I'm out. you
yeah, he
know?
could have.
You know what I'm saying?
He even, which I, which was kind of funny, when I tried to find when I opened my website, which I don't use ever, and a fan put the website together, and it looks like that. It looks like it was done for free, So I don't like really put anything on there. But um, when I went to find the domain name, www.dylanelise.com, it took it took you to his like video
Oh no
website.
way. He really rode that for a
Oh,
while,
he
huh?
did. Then I was like, "Hey, man," it took me to your website. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just holding it. Like it's yours. Take it." He said, "I just grabbed it so that no one else tried to grab it, and you know,
So he
then you
gave it
wouldn't
he
have to
gave it
pay
right
them."
to you.
Oh yeah, he said, "I've been waiting for you to open like to start your website." So I
Yeah.
just held the domain name, and he just signed it over to me for free.
Wow, that's so cool. The man,
I
that's
was
a
like, "Wow, that
really
was
good
cool."
dude, it sounds like. I
Yeah,
mean, wish he would come video all of us a little bit. Come on.
yeah,
Do the
yeah.
clickbait thing.
Terry was his name. Is his name. I
Yeah.
haven't spoken to him in a long time, but
Uh-huh.
yeah.
What a
But he
pivotal
really did me a
moment.
favor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. Well, I mean, that's how Arnell got with Journey, the lead singer for
Right.
Journey,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they were just thumbing through videos and ran across him, and next thing you know, the guy's, the longest standing lead singer of Journey, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I've seen that band. They sound amazing.
They do. I mean, that guy's
Yeah.
an amazing singer and he's got
He
great
is.
energy and
Yeah.
running all over the place, and I don't know, he's
Yeah.
got to be 40
Yes.
or 50 by now and he's still
Right.
running around like a crazy man. Pretty
I
cool.
saw him at the at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. That's where we
Wow.
saw them.
A
Yeah,
trip.
it's so funny. I
I'm gonna
played there with PS&T at in a different venue, and then we got the owner like gave us tickets to come in and see Journey. So it was great. It was really awesome.
That's cool. I'm going to see
You've
them,
met,
their stadium tour with Def Leppard next month, so I'm excited about
wow.
that. Yeah.
And
You,
Steve is what a drummer.
oh god, man.
Steve
Yeah,
Smith.
he was one. Some of the stuff that he did on the Escape album. It's funny
Mhm.
because other people just listen to it. They're like, whatever. But
Right.
like, just such tasty fills. I just
He's an amazing
love
jazz
his
drummer.
playing. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did
Yeah.
that. Was it called Vital
Yeah.
Signs?
Vital information.
Vital Information. That's it.
Yep.
God, man,
Yep.
that was like '80s when that was happening. I remember
Yeah,
it's crazy.
when he still had hair. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Now he's bald. He looks like a rock star. He's like a Kenny Arnoff now.
yeah,
Well,
true.
talking about this the stadium tour and everything. So, like, when you think back of all the shows that you've played, what sticks out to you where you're like, man, that was like the greatest show ever?
You know, there's two that spring to mind. One was the 50. We played. I think the 50-year anniversary of Woodstock. Like I think the festival itself or something got cancelled, but we played something. It was the same time, and but we actually played at Bethel, like where Woodstock actually was, or on the hill. We played. Then Edgar Winter played, and then Ringo Starr's All Stars played.
Whoa, what
So
a lineup!
that was, I forget what that was called, but it wasn't like the Woodstock 50-year anniversary. It was something else to do with Woodstock, but I forget the name of it. But it was essentially, it was in 2017. So, sorry, 2019, excuse me. Of course, Woodstock was 1969. And yeah, that was pretty amazing, honestly, because I've seen that documentary a thousand times as a kid growing up, and seeing everyone performing and just like, man, this like that must be amazing to play a festival like that, And then I got to play the 50-year like anniversary with a band that played the original Woodstock. So that was
What a
pretty
moment!
special. It was
Yeah,
a
yeah. I
um,
mean, there's those moments that you're there, and all of a sudden you're just like taken aback, and you're like,
oh yeah.
this is happening. Whoa.
And then on top of that, like that's where I first met Greg Bissonette, whom I watched, videos of and everything for years prior, and growing up playing drums in New Zealand. Um, and then of course Ringo,
I mean,
Ringo was
yeah, like for
backstage.
as far as a drummer goes, man, getting a gig like
Yeah.
that, like it fills
Oh yeah.
all the holes in it. I mean, gosh, yeah. Greg
Rockstars for
Bissonette
sure.
is a freaking rock star. Actually, he was actually at Music
He's a
City
nice
Drum
guy.
Show this weekend, and
Oh yeah, nice.
he did Drumathon. I think it was 22 or
Okay,
21, maybe came out for
nice.
that. And
That's awesome.
great guy, great, amazing player. He's
He
like,
is.
he's one of those guys that like Weckl and
Mm-hmm.
Kalyuda, all those. I mean,
Yeah,
there's people that you just like. I put Rod Morgenstein in there too.
nice.
He was in that. It's funny. I made a note a second ago. I was like, I need to ask Dylan. Like, there's so many like drummers out there right now, like on social media, that are just quote influencers, right?
Right.
They're not like not like in some band or whatever, but they're just like
Right.
huge on like TikTok or wherever. Is there
Yeah.
somebody you're like locked into that you want to share that you want to check out?
Um, I wish I had a name. I wish I had a name for you. I mean, there's the everybody knows that. Is he Italian or something? The guy who does like the blast beat, the one
Yeah,
hand.
I was just. It's funny
I
because
forget what
he's
his
the
name
guy
is.
I always want to say too, and I actually don't know his name, and here I'm gonna
Right.
see if I can
But I
find his
know
name.
that I wonder how much, obviously what he does is great, and I don't like it's not sped up or anything, but there is a lot of post production done because to get like the single handed roll thing as loud as he has it, that's not that's not you know
That's
to me
otherworldly.
necessary.
Is like
Yeah,
I hear you
it,
saying.
it's done in post production. That's my understanding
Yeah.
of it because his backbeats are the same volume as when he does the gravity blast or whatever
Right.
that's
So
called.
he's like going and cranking
I'm
those up
like, all
some.
right.
Yeah.
So if you were to hear, it's still super, obviously super
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Not, but what you're hearing is not true to what is actually being like. It's just super compressed. If you were to hear it live, it wouldn't sound quite as impactful as what you're hearing after the video's done, kind of thing. But it doesn't take away from the cool, the crazy shit he does. It's crazy stuff he does. Excuse me.
I remember the first time I saw somebody do like a one-handed roll just down the drums, and I was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh my god!" I think it was Carter Buford from Dave Matthews Band. I
Right.
was
Yeah.
like, "You're such a jerk, man." I was like, "That's so unfair." He's just like, I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like he could have been like drinking a coffee with the other hand, like that other dude does all the time. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
just thought that was the coolest thing. Like you
The
know,
first guy I saw do that was a guy named Johnny Rab.
uh huh.
And I don't know kind of what happened to him, but he used to do a lot of kind of electronic drum and bass sort of type drumming, and he was with Roland. That's how I remember seeing him. He would do like the single hand rolls, um, all along like the TD drums.
Yeah.
And it would just be incredible. I just remember being very inspired, and so I learned how to do that. Then of course, as you do, and yeah, I mean it's a great trick, which I don't use, for like real world application. But I should probably. It's impressive.
It is
And
impressive,
it's
man.
fun.
Well, there's another
I
guy. Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Oh, yeah, you go for it.
Okay. No, I was gonna tell you, like I said, it's so cool to see some of these social media guys, these drummers that are just doing crazy stuff on social media.
Mhm.
There's a guy, Jahim Lee, that you should check out. I'll text you his name.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
but
And that guy Grayson, he sounds great. He's
yeah.
a young kid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he sounds great. Like kind of Gene Krupa type, like reincarnated sort of thing. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Nekroitman or something.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he sounds great. He's young and energetic, and it's impressive for sure.
Right. This Jahim guy, he was a performer at the Music City Drum Show, and he's like a snare drum guy.
Nice.
And his whole, like, when he does a clinic, he talks about how important presence is,
Hmm.
and I translate that to being animated. Like, he was just very animated.
Right.
And you got to see him. I'll send you some stuff because it's pretty dang cool, man.
That's awesome.
Well, I just looked at the time and I'm like, dang, we're already past the 30 minutes of our chat time. I'm just like
Sorry about
rolling
that.
on. No, I've enjoyed this time together, and I could tell other people watching are. I'm just gonna double check and make sure nobody watching had any questions that they popped in here, so we don't,
No
because I've
worries.
been like so. Yeah, okay. Somebody mentioned the guy's name. El Estepario Ciberiano. I just butchered the guy's name. The really fast guy with the compressed.
Italian guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
with the
yeah,
beard. Yeah.
that dude. So that's who that was.
Yeah, he's great.
Checking to see. I mean, we have a lot of people watching. It looks like they're just hanging out in there. Oh, here we go.
Nice.
We're so thankful you're here, Dylan. Very cool.
Thank you. Thanks for
Oh
having me.
yeah, and it's Grayson. Oh, she's spelling it like I can read that. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I can't. Grayson. We'll
The,
just call
the
him
crew.
Grayson.
Yeah, Grayson. Yeah.
Grayson, but it's in the comments, guys. So be sure to
Right.
check that out for sure. But man, Dylan, it's so good to catch up with you again. Love to have you out to Drumathon out here in Dallas,
I'd love to
Texas
do
again
that.
soon. And we've had some people that we've had out, 3, 4, 6 times, and
Hmm.
thought about you the other day, and it would be so good to see you again. So we'll have to reach out and figure it out and
I
make it
would love. I
happen.
would love to come out. Love to come out and help
It's
out.
so
That'd be
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, and thanks for being a part of our Drumathon in 2019. It's such a big deal to have someone of your talent come out and really help us raise more funds to fight this thing.
I appreciate it,
Yeah,
and
man.
yeah, all the best. And I hope to see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. You have a great night, okay, man?
You too. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That's Dylan Elise, drummer for Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Amazing, dude. If you weren't at Drumathon 2019, be sure to go check out some videos from that. That guy is slaying. He is amazing. And I'm sure you can find, if you just look up World Best Drummer question mark on YouTube, it sounds like you might run across some videos from back in the day and how he got picked up by Blood, Sweat, and Tears in the first place. Super cool. I'm going to give a shout out to a few people who are watching right now. Norman is in the house.